it may not feel like the right thing to do on an ethical level right now, but it may feel like the right thing to do on a physical level. So there's a dissonance there, and it can be kind of hard to bridge that gap. So I would say the first thing is have some patience and grace with yourself.
Are you ready to unveil wisdom and insights beyond conventional healthcare and nutrition? Welcome to the Radiant Health and Wellness Show. Throughout each episode, we explore perspectives designed to empower you and activate your radiant health, wellness, and vitality from within as you make your body your ally on your journey to optimal well-being. I'm your host, Dr. Beata Harasim, specializing in gut health for digestion, weight loss, anxiety, fertility, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. Make sure to click the subscribe button and share with anyone you think would benefit. These episodes are for educational purposes only, and please consult with your physician or a practitioner before making any changes. Let's go. Your journey to radiant health starts here. Hi, welcome everyone to the next season of the Radiant Health and Wellness Show. My name is Dr. Beata Harasim. I'm a holistic and integrative doctor. And today we have my incredible friend, Catherine Shaw, here to share her journey to vibrant health through nutrition and her experiences and what she does with her business as well. And I did just want to mention, if anyone would like to join us on our next mini retreat, we're going to be doing them every couple of weeks. Our next one is the Holistic Detox, getting ready with this fall season and the energy of the fall season, and then getting ready for the holiday season coming up. So that's the next one. I will drop a link with the retreat information below if anyone's interested in that. And now I would love to present again, Kat, as we lovingly call her. And she is a nutritional therapeutic practitioner, as well as a Biofield Tuning Practitioner. But I will let Kat go ahead and introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about her.
Thanks, Beata. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. It's an honor. As Beata said, I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, so I work with people typically one-on-one to really dig deep into whatever is going on for them health-wise and to help support them back into balance and to just achieve vitality and optimal health. I'm also a Biofield Tuning Practitioner, so that is a modality that works predominantly on the electromagnetic energy field of our bodies. It can affect physical symptoms and shift things in positive ways, but it can also help balance mindsets and release old patterns of beliefs that no longer serve us. It can, help with a lot of different things. It's a profound modality, and it's sound therapy, so it's using tuning forks, and it's a really beautiful experience. So those are the things that I do.
Yeah, wonderful. And I know for this interview, we'll definitely be going more into the biofield tuning on another chat. I'm excited for that one as well. And I'd love to dive into the nutrition piece. I know a little bit about your nutrition story and some of your health journey, but I'd love if you can share with the audience as well. And if anyone is watching and has questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in the comments and we'll get to them live as well.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I will just kind of start out and talk a bit about my health journey. Can you still hear me okay, Beata?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. I froze on my end here, so I'm not sure.
Yep, you're still going live, so.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to keep on going.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I would say I had a fairly typical upbringing in suburban America. I, ate home-cooked meals, canned vegetables with starches and some meat. Took some rounds of antibiotics as a child when I got sick, but, relatively stable as far as that goes. When I entered high school, I kind of became captivated by a culture of young women who had a certain unrealistic ideal as far as body image, and that goes wanting to be thin, and I kind of fell into that trap. So I did develop an eating disorder. I was anorexic it was probably a couple of years, right around the time I was about 16. And it was difficult for me. I was a gymnast. I had been a gymnast for most of my life. And so I was competing in high school. And, you really just need to have sufficient energy and nourishment to be able to perform. So I found that very difficult with the restrictions that I was placing on myself. And also that was a time when my body was still growing and developing. So I ended up losing my menstrual cycle for a year, and things were just really difficult. I did end up finding the inner strength to move through that and develop a little bit of a healthier relationship to food. But it was shortly after that, so at about age 18, that I embarked on a 13-year diet and lifestyle choice to eliminate all animal products from my life. So I became vegan. And it began as an ethical choice. And then I did feel over time that I was doing the best thing I could for my health. I did become dogmatic about it, and I stuck with it for a good long time. But during that time, my health really did decline. My digestion was a mess. I always felt bloated, sluggish, very tired in the afternoons. I developed severe tooth decay, and to the point where I eventually spent my life savings getting some implants and some major dental work done. My mental health suffered. I was often depressed or anxious, and I had severe dysmenorrhea as well. So essentially, that is a lot of pain and discomfort surrounding my menstrual cycle. So being that I was also very interested in health and nutrition, I started trying to dig into some things and studying. I started learning about things like the bioavailability of foods. So, for example, how you can take something like broccoli or spinach and test it in a laboratory and see all the different nutrients that it has. But then when you're eating that food, do all of those nutrients actually get utilized by your body? So I started learning about the actual nutrient density of foods and what that might mean as far as the availability of absorbing them. And I started soaking and sprouting the grains that I was eating. I was even making sourdough bread from scratch and grinding my own flour with a hand crank grinder. And I think that those things did help a bit, but a lot of damage had been done by that point. So I had a big hole to crawl out of, and that just wasn't going to do it. I had severe mineral and vitamin deficiencies for sure, and intestinal dysbiosis, or we could call it leaky gut. So, no matter what I was eating, I still wasn't getting what I needed out of it. So there was a real turning point for me, kind of when my health hit that rock bottom and I was doing a lot of searching. I came across a book at the library. It was Sally Fallon of the Weston A. Price Foundation. She's the president. She wrote a book called Nourishing Traditions. And I remember reading in the beginning of that, there's a whole section about how important eating saturated animal fats are, and, vitamins A, D, the fat soluble vitamins, all these things that I wasn't really getting in my diet. And I was resistant to the information at first, but it certainly planted a seed for me. And then I picked up Rami Nagel's book, Cure Tooth Decay, which was all about using diet to remineralize the teeth and heal cavities. And so those two books alone were a huge turning point for me. And then I just, tried to read and digest as much information as I could. And I decided to change the course of what I was doing diet-wise. I was all the while still studying other modalities, studying herbology and botanical medicine, Chinese medicine, energy healing. But it was really that foundational nutrition information that helped me kind of get back on my feet and starting to have more energy to do the things that I wanted to do. Today I'm 39 years young and I feel better now than I've ever felt in my life. So I decided to formalize my nutrition training a few years ago, so that I could use that to help other people that might be suffering or going through similar things that I've gone through.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think many people can resonate and, kind of understand where you may be coming from, especially with some of your earlier experiences. Myself, again, being thin culture and things like that in high school, that was something that actually during my early college years, I had nothing diagnosed, but looking back, there was definitely disordered eating happening. And again, body image and how that affects us, not just on a physical level, but also on an emotional and mental level. And then for kind of a similar, I used to eat a lot of fortified foods. And I remember getting the Diet Coke that was fortified in vitamin B vitamins, and, thinking that was like one of the best things that I could be consuming. And this was actually during the time that I was getting a nutrition degree. So it was interesting because that was still being shared as being valuable to consume, and that these vitamins are going to be absorbed. And again, at the time, I wasn't making the connection that I'm just peeing all of this out and nothing is being absorbed right now, and all these other pieces to the puzzle as well. But absolutely. And then one question that I'd love to ask you, because there have been other conversations that I've been having with other people, is about being vegan. There's an ethical component to it. And I'm curious what your thoughts were on that when you did decide to eat animal products, and kind of, your thought process, or what you may share to anyone else that may be considering it, or, is curious about it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Like I mentioned, being vegan for me did start out and was predominantly an ethical choice. And with that, over the course of years that I was eating that way, it became my identity in a very large way. My best friends were vegan, either on their own or because I had convinced them that it was the best thing. And so for me, the idea of even changing what I'm eating, besides the fact that it might be healthy for me, there was this whole other component to it, with having to essentially be okay with changing the identity I had built for myself. So what I would say about that is that, that certainly took some internal work. And it also required me to look at things from a less dogmatic point of view. So when I'm saying that, I mean, it was almost like it was a religion to me, like it was my cross to bear. I had to continue to be vegan, even if I learned new information, no matter what, because that's who I am and that's the best thing. When I started to really dig into that whole concept of why I was thinking that way, one of the things that I found was that there was just a feeling of guilt that I had, maybe, for even the idea of taking another life to sustain my own. But it was, in my opinion, the way that I had been thinking about it was pretty short-sighted. So we're all part of nature, we are nature. And the way that things do work in this realm is that life and death are both very important parts of our existence. And so, for me, what I realized was that taking the life of another living creature to sustain myself is not inherently wrong. And what's important is the respect and the care that is given to that living being, and the thanks, the gratitude and appreciation for the nourishment that it's going to give me. So I started to change my whole attitude towards, the idea of raising animals for food, And certainly I still feel the same exact way about confined animal feed operations or the factory farming. It's atrocious what's done to animals. But there are very beautiful ways of raising animals and loving and caring for them while knowing that that their purpose is going to be to nourish your own body and spirit. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. And it's a beautiful way of thinking about it, because that's something that, I mean, we're very aligned in many things. And I agree. I forget the name of the documentary right now, but maybe 12, 13 years ago was the first time I saw this documentary, and it talked about essentially factory farming and the operations. And it was such an eye-opener for me. And it was already something that I was a little familiar with, because my parents both grew up on small farms in Poland. So, when we'd go out and visit, there'd be chickens running around, and it was just a regular part of daily life, and I remember one of my earliest memories was actually in Poland visiting my grandma or Beata, and walking down the street to the neighborhood cow and getting fresh milk. And it's just one of those things that in cultures, and again, we can talk a little bit about Weston A. Price in a moment, those traditional cultures, things have been done a certain way, and with that respect and honor and gratitude for the animals. And I know, again, you know Sally Fallon and Weston A. Price well. For those who aren't aware, he's a dentist from the early 1900s, and he saw people with a lot of tooth decay, etc., and then went and explored different cultures from all around the world, and recognized that a lot of these traditional cultures had optimal health, beautiful teeth. They didn't do anything, they didn't have any treatments or anything like that. They had these wide, very healthy faces, robust features. They were strong. And he started getting curious. What are the similarities here? And he saw that a lot of it was in their nourishment, in their diets and nutrition. And so since then, the Weston A. Price Foundation has been connecting people who are interested in that with farmers, with people who raise animals to those standards. So I'd love to actually have you mention a little bit about your experience and your current work with the Weston A. Price Foundation as well. I think that'd be really interesting and important here as well.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So I kind of kept tabs on the Weston A. Price Foundation after I first had read Sally Fallon's book, Nourishing Traditions. She's gone on to write a few other books now. And so she's the president, and I believe Dr. Tom Cowan is the vice president. He does great work as well. I highly recommend reading. He's written several books about things like cancer and water, fourth phase water, structured water, things like that. But as far as my work with Weston A. Price, I am a chapter leader in Connecticut for the foundation. And really what that means is that I'm kind of a go-to point for people in the area that are looking for resources. So in Connecticut, and this is going to be the same for actually most states and probably a lot of the world at this point, but especially in the States, there are a lot of farms and a lot of resources that people just don't really know about. A lot of times, farmers are busy farming. They don't, a lot of them don't have the time and the knowledge to go and do a whole bunch of things on the computer and put themselves out there. Some of that's changing. There's a lot of younger farmers or, people even our age that are getting into regenerative farming and putting themselves out there in a great way. But the point is there are a ton of resources and it's not always easy to find them. So I act as kind of a go-to point. So I have, a list of resources and other ways of finding out information. So someone can see, if they look up Central Connecticut, they'll see my name as a chapter leader, and they can email me or call me and say, hey, I'm looking for, really nourishing farm fresh food in the area, pastured meats, raw milk, things like that. And I can connect them with those farms. Overall, I feel like Weston A. Price the information that I was able to glean from, all of the different tenets of ancestral eating and the things that the Weston A. Price Foundation teaches have been pretty much the most profound, had the most profound effect on the turnaround of my health. So, even just perusing their website, they also have a Wise Traditions podcast that is awesome. It's just half-hour little podcasts, so they're very easy to just put on if you're, doing something at home or driving somewhere. You can get a lot of great information from those. Just starting to learn about the work that Price did. He wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It is like a Bible. It's a huge book, but it is really interesting to go through and see some of these different tribes that he studied and how amazing their health was. And they weren't all eating the same thing either. But, one of the things was that they were eating their ancestral diet. So, it was the right diet for their climate. And it was tradition to their history of however long that culture existed, the things that they were eating in those areas. So that's a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And that's an important, I think, piece as well to mention is that there is individuality. So what one person is eating is not going to be always the best choice for the other. And so that is where there is that, we're all unique. We all need tailored and customized approaches. We need to listen to our bodies. And that's actually one thing that both of us are really passionate about is, being really in tune with ourselves and our intuition. And is there anything you'd like to mention about that as well? Because that's such a key piece in, my process as well, but I know is yours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the most important things to keep in mind going through this sort of health journey is that you can, as you can sit there on the computer or go to the library and get 100 books, and you can find a lot of contradictory information, and you can find a lot of great information too. It can be very difficult in a sea of information to really discern what is truth, what is not. And, for myself, I've wanted to go down that road. So I've spent a lot of time looking into who's giving this information and why and where's it coming from and what might be behind it and all that. But typically someone wants to be able to just find information and put it into practice in their life, and they want to trust that this is coming from a good source. Well, what I would say is that all of us individually are our own best and most trusted source. It's just that we have to access that intuitive guidance and the inner knowing that we all have. So what I like to tell people is that there are ways that you can start putting that into practice and start getting in touch with that inner knowing that are pretty simple to start out. So even things like keeping a little food and mood journal for yourself, maybe even a few days a month, writing down what it is you're eating, and maybe some notes that you notice about how you're feeling afterwards, or even your emotional state before you're about to eat that food. Just little things that you can start to make these correlations for yourself can be really profound, to just start kind of getting in touch with, how you feel about what you're doing. And then, doing things like spending some time in contemplation or reflection can go a long way. A lot of times quieting all of the outside information for a period of time to just kind of tune into what feels great to us, you'll gather so much information that way, a lot more sometimes than you can get in sitting there and reading 5 articles on the computer. So I think that it's definitely a skill that I highly recommend people to develop. It's something that is available to every one of us, and it can go a long way with people's individual health journeys, because like you said, we all are very bio-individual. So there's going to be things that are similarities, like a similar thread for most of us. But then there are going to be things that are different because of our individual makeup or our unique set of circumstances in life, be it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of that. So yeah, getting in touch with your intuition and that inner guidance is incredibly important for you reaching your health goals and getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, beautiful. And so important because, again, I think many of us like to, compare, like just look at a protocol or a book. And I mean, I made that mistake when I first started doing some of the deeper gut healing work. I jumped right in and automatically was like, oh my gosh, my body like literally was revolting against me because I went way too hard, way too fast for my situation, for my body at that time. And so that's important to mention as well, because I want to mention this as well, like starting, maybe if you have been vegan or vegetarian for a certain amount of time and all of a sudden you want to start eating meat, there's digestive enzymes that your body potentially hasn't been producing for quite some time. So you may not feel great if all of a sudden you jump in really fast. And, so a lot of that is listening to your body, working with a practitioner who can help you through that process, because that's important as well, is that you may not feel great right away if you are going too fast, if you're getting a lot of detox reactions, if you're, doing what's not ideal for your body in that moment, essentially. So I just want to throw that out there as well, because that's a key component that sometimes, I know myself, I felt horrible when I jumped into that gut healing protocol to start. It wasn't that it wasn't for me or that what I was doing wasn't, right or anything like that. It was just too much, too fast. So that's something that, I don't know if you have anything to share about that as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. It can be very difficult, especially if you've been, say, vegetarian or especially vegan for a period of time. You're absolutely right. There's digestive enzymes. There's the hydrochloric acid in your stomach is likely going to be diminished the longer you have not been eating animal proteins. And that's something that's absolutely crucial in order to digest animal proteins. So if you just flip a switch and start eating meat, and your stomach doesn't have what it needs to process that, then you may end up feeling worse for a period of time. And you don't necessarily have to. There's different tools and there's different things that you can do to kind of mitigate that response. And so, yes, I agree with you. That's why accessing your inner knowing is really important, but it's also important to have the tools that you need to be able to successfully transition to something healthier. So that's where having the support of someone working with you can really go a long way to just getting you past some of those roadblocks without too much discomfort, because it can be very difficult and it can be a process. I don't want to say that it's always difficult in every case for every person, but it can be challenging if you just kind of dive in and go too hard, too fast on your own.
Right, definitely. And so we've touched, the physical components, the more spiritual, even intuition portion. What can you mention about mindset, beliefs, things like that, and how does that affect us in our health journey as well?
Yeah, that's an awesome question and very dear to my heart. Mindset and beliefs, I feel like, are almost as important as the nutrition itself. Yes, the nutrition is important for the actual building blocks, but the mindsets and beliefs that we carry throughout our lives about the different values that we have can be the difference between getting us to where we want to be or holding us back our whole lives. So, say you can have a value that's really important to you, and you value great health and you value vitality and energy. And you may have a belief surrounding that value that doesn't really align with that value, because you may have a belief that it's very difficult to have good health, or that you've just been dealt a bad hand and you're going to have to work harder than anyone else, or you may just never get there. So you may have these beliefs that are not actually supporting that which you value and that what you're working towards. So if you have an incongruent value and belief, then you're likely going to be stuck. So, that's just one example of the type of belief that you can have. But what I would say is that there's a couple of things personally for me that have been really important with kind of breaking through some of those barriers. One of them was a course that I went through. It's called Awareness School, and it's Dr. Stephen Rovenstag and Dr. Melissa Sell. They put this course on together, and it is, I think, about 12 or 13 weeks long. It's really in depth, and you go into exploring your beliefs, your values, why you think certain things, and really it just teaches you to have awareness in all these different areas of your life. It's very profound work, and I found it extremely beneficial to me. And then the other thing I would mention is the Biofield Tuning work that has also been very profound in helping me to kind of understand where some of these beliefs and patterns are even coming from, because some of them are coming from birth, from pre-birth, passed down in our lineages. Some are coming from traumatic times early in life where we set up a certain belief about ourselves. And so that work has been really instrumental in helping me release some of those old beliefs, which creates way for new ones. Beliefs can be changed. That's the thing. Mindset and beliefs can be changed. It may not always be easy, but they certainly can be changed. So I'd like to encourage anyone that might be getting stuck with a negative mindset about what they're capable of, to really kind of start to have some awareness around that topic, and just know that beliefs can be shifted, and that it really is, good health is available to every one of us. So it's a lot of times we get in our own ways.
Absolutely. And, so much of that is subconscious or unconscious, really, where we may not even be aware of it. And it's really important work to start kind of digging in and exploring, because many of us who feel like we've kind of hit a block in the road where we just can't, we get to a certain amount of healing and we can't go any further. Oftentimes that's where the deeper work is. And then once we do uncover a certain belief, like you mentioned, awareness is the first part. And once you can see it, once you can name it, I would say at least 50% of the power of that belief is gone. And so then it's, the other work underlying that as well, emotional work, energy work. Sometimes, like the biofield tuning is a fantastic way of doing that as well. And kind of discovering what's underneath, what are some of those beliefs and things that we've been holding on for sometimes our whole lives. Absolutely. And so I just discovered a new feature on StreamYard, which I wasn't aware of, but so I can display this question that someone posted. So this is where I'm at. I've been mostly vegan the last 7 years, and I'm considering integrating meat again. I've started eating fish occasionally. It's a challenge for me mentally to break that barrier. Part of me thinks it's not a big deal, and there's a deeper part that is hesitant to make this change. So thank you so much for sharing. With StreamYard, it just says Facebook user. So thank you for that comment. And I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to comment or mention with that, Kat.
I can certainly empathize with what she's going through with that kind of mental anguish, in a way, surrounding making this shift. And I guess what I would say is that I can relate to those feelings, and that to be gentle with yourself in this process, because it may not feel like the right thing to do on an ethical level right now, but it may feel like the right thing to do on a physical level. So there's kind of there's a dissonance there, and it can be kind of hard to bridge that gap. So I would say the first thing is have some patience and grace with yourself, because this is a very real thing that a lot of people will have to deal with when making this type of a change. I would say letting go of some of the pressure on yourself to have to feel like you are this perfect person that's doing all of the perfect things can go a long way. For me, I did start, when I started eating meat, it was fish that I started eating, fish and raw goat dairy. And as I was, I jumped through that hoop. I started eating it, even if I didn't feel great about what I was actually doing on an ethical level. And as I was doing it, I was expressing, my gratitude for this nourishment, and things almost organically started to shift a little bit for me. So, there's probably a lot I can say about it, but that's kind of keeping it simple. Have some patience and some grace with yourself, and realize that you don't have to have this pressure to be this perfect, most what you might think of as, spiritually realized person and all of this. Like you're just a person trying to feel better and heal yourself. And, this is a step along your journey. And the more that you do it, and the more that you do it with reverence for the food that you're eating, I think that those shifts will start to happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And one thing that I can add in, just from my perspective, is getting to know, the people who do raise the animals that you choose to consume. So myself, my farmer, Darren, I may have talked about him a couple of times. I actually want to get him on the show and interview him. But, we go out there a couple times a year, one, to see the animals. We get to feed them, we get to care for them. So we have a connection there as well. For example, we always get a pig from him. So we know that, like, we see these are the happiest pigs like we've ever seen. Like, you can literally walk in, they come up to be pet, and like they are just living their lives. They're out. He has them out in a forest. So he has a large, I don't know how big, how acreage wise, but it's a large area that he has fenced off. So they just go ahead in the forest, forage, live true to their nature. And then he rotates that area of forest every year. And it's actually healthy for his land, because his land is getting cleaned up, and also all the nourishment from the droppings, etc. And he's able to, continue this year after year, because he just rotates the areas of the forest. And also, it's been just so, for my daughter, the experience of going and understanding where her food is coming from, and really learning to, again, express that gratitude for, this food that she is consuming and eating, and getting a connection to it has been really helpful. And something that Darren often says is that everything wants to contribute. We're here to contribute on earth, and, everything from the plants to the animals, we all have our place, and everything wants to contribute. And so that's just, again, when he comes on, I'll let him elaborate further on that. But that's just from my experience. It's been, it's given me a lot of peace of mind, just knowing how these animals are raised. And the other thing is, we're able to literally use nose to tail. So when, I go to the butcher myself, and literally, have every single piece saved. And that, again, gives me a sense of, I'm really honoring this animal. I'm not throwing out pieces. Everything from the hooves to the tail make absolute amazing stock and soup. There's so many amazing traditional ways to prepare the foods that are really highly nourishing. And again, prove that honor and gratitude to the animals at the same time.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I'm glad that you shared that. And farming can be very spiritual work. Some farmers that I've met are some of the most down-to-earth spiritual people. They have great reverence for what they do, and for the connection to the animals and to the earth. And so it's really beautiful being able to be a part of that, and, getting to know the people who are doing that.
Right. Absolutely. And then I remember that you had a digestion tip that you wanted to share as well. Would you be able to talk a little bit about that as well? Because I know you were mentioning it's not even what you eat, right? It's how you eat. Yes.
Yeah. So a really simple tip, and this can be utilized no matter what your diet is like. Like Beata said, this is about not what you eat, but how you eat. And I've found that just doing these little simple things can have profound effects on your digestion. So basically, the first thing I'll say is that digestion, we often think digestion begins in the mouth when we're taking in the food. Digestion actually begins in the brain. So if we are in a relaxed, parasympathetic, rest and digest state of being, then that is step one in being able to not only digest the food, but get the nutrients out of it and utilize them. So, for those of us that kind of go through our day and we're rushing and not really paying attention when we're eating a meal or just grabbing something and going, and sure, there's a time and a place for that. We all have those moments. But taking some intentional time to eat a meal, to sit down and take a few deep breaths before the meal, to even just express, whether internally or externally, a moment of gratitude or appreciation for the food, really taking a moment to smell it, and to savor the taste when we start eating it. So things like that can just drop us right into a parasympathetic state. And when we're in that state, anything, no matter what we're eating. So if you're eating, a bowl of beans or you're eating a steak, you're going to get more nutrition out of that food if you're in that relaxed state. So that's kind of my number one tip that anyone can try doing. You can try doing it one meal a day. If that works for you, you can try it every other day. You can work your way up, but every time you eat, anytime you can have a meal that way without distractions in a relaxed state, you're going a long way towards helping your digestion out.
Yes, that's so important. Thank you for mentioning that. I often say, as a mom and with other moms, we tend to eat like standing up and walking around. And it's one of those things when we can become present and aware for a minute and sit down just, for that meal, or even if it is a quick meal, it makes such a big difference to, again, take those moments to really tap in. And again, like you said, anyone can use that no matter what you're eating. And that's a great way of thinking about it. I don't know if I ever have thought about it that way, that it really, digestion starts in your mind. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And so how can people learn more about you and your work and your business and get in touch? I know you also have a freebie as well, for our audience and listeners.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a website that is rootwisdomhealth.com. You can find all kinds of information on there about how I work with people. And I offer free 20-minute consultations. If you think that you might be interested in potentially working with me, then I offer, a free conversation to see if that might be a good fit. So that's one thing. And then also for any of your listeners or watchers, if you sign up for any of the wellness packages that I offer, then I will also throw in a free 30-minute Ask Me Anything food prep and cooking related in there, so you can get some questions answered about how to prepare different foods. I did spend many years as a professional cook, so I've learned a lot of tips and tricks and techniques to make certain things easier or taste good. And so that's something that I will offer to your listeners as well. And yeah, so you can find me on that website. Currently, that is where most of my information is. I do not have any social media channels at the time. So, you're also always welcome to email me, and maybe we can put my email down below. It's also on my website. And, ask me any questions that you may have. I'm very happy to talk to people about the support that I might be able to offer them. And if I can't, try to help point them in a direction to where they can get the help that they need.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Kat, and thank you so much for being here. All of the links I will put down in the comments below. I did see that another Facebook user said hi, so hello. Thank you for commenting and watching. And I will see your names once I get out of the StreamYard recording studio. But thank you so much for joining in. And again, so I will put the links below if anyone has any other questions for Kat. I'll have her website, and then you can send her an email and definitely take advantage of that 20-minute discovery call if you're interested in working further with her. And is there any last words that you'd love to leave for our listeners today?
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple of things. One is just a sincere thank you to you, Beata, for inviting me here to talk to you. I feel very honored, and I admire you and your work very much. So thank you.
Likewise.
And the other thing I would like to say is that, for anyone listening or watching, whether it's now or in the future, the fact that you are watching this and drawn to this, to me, shows that there's a very real energetic connection here. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and honor that. And you're likely here because you're seeking something. So, whether you're seeking to get through each day with enough energy to have love and attention to give to those that you care about the most, or maybe you're seeking to learn about the best foods to fuel your body and the best lifestyle practices to bring you the most joy in your life. Whatever it is that you're seeking, I'm holding the intention that you will find that which you're seeking, and that guidance will come to you in the most appropriate way for you to work with it and integrate it into your life. So I'm wishing you all blessings on your health journeys.
Thank you so much. Very beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor to have you as a guest, and I can't wait for our next one. And as always, I wish everyone all the best, and we will see you on the next episode of the Radiant Health and Wellness Show. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Radiant Health and Wellness Show. With deep gratitude and appreciation, I'm extending an invitation to you for the free Secrets to Radiant Health mini course, where I unveil the hidden keys to radiant health, wellness, and vitality by identifying and addressing your unique root causes. I also invite you to join us virtually or in person at our next live mini retreat. These links and all the links we mentioned in the show are listed below in the description and show notes. If you like this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please like, subscribe, leave a rating or a review, and please share this episode with others. Remember, your radiant health and wellness lies within when you work with your body as your ally.